got Darrell Miklos. I know I said that a little bit wrong, but I gave it my best.
No, that was perfect.
Cool, man. Marine exploration. I have a show on Discovery Channel, Cooper's Treasure. Congratulations on that. All the shipwrecks. You've done so much, and you kept at it all these years.
Yep, it's been a long time.
So what originally got you into it? I think I had read you started when you were 14 with your father. You kind of started to get into it because it's a family. Like your father shipwrecks as well too, right?
Yeah, he kind of. I wanted to be a rock star and a professional surfer, and he pulled me away and said, "Darrell, I need you to help me on weekends." And I go, "Well, I want to go surfing." And he goes, "Well, look, let's take the summers. You can bring your surfboard. Let's go treasure hunting. You're a good swimmer. I need a diver." And I said, "Okay." And so that's how it started. And once we did a project in the San Sebastian area near Cape Canaveral, that was our first project. And then we did several others. We worked on the Atocha with Mel Fisher. And then we did another project after that kind of fell through. My dad and Mel didn't see eye to eye, but they were friends for a long time, but they didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things. So we moved to Turks and Caicos and started looking for what my father thought was the Pinta from Columbus's shipwreck. Turned out to be Columbus wreck, but it wasn't the Pinta, it was the Frail.
For everybody to know, you know, like there's 17,000 different stories of what Columbus did and what he didn't do, at least. What did Columbus actually do?
Well, he raped and pillaged all the local indigenous people.
All right, that
took everything they had, you know, and he established a footprint in the New World for the Spanish monarchy, and he made his fame doing that. You know, realistically, that's what he really did.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to hear it from you. One thing that caught my eye, and you've done so much, is that Gordon Cooper, you know, the astronaut, went up there. He was in outer space, and he could see, or there was a 55-year-old treasure that was seen from space.
Well, when Gordon was practicing to be an astronaut, he befriended a bunch of treasure hunters in the local area, one being Kip Wagner. And when they were practicing zero buoyancy, that's how he had met Kip Wagner. They would go to the ocean and practice diving and all that. He became really good friends and started a partnership with him. And he worked with the Real 8 Corporation, and they dove on shipwrecks together. And that's how he got interested in it. In fact, he brought a bunch of coins from the 1715 fleet off the Treasure Coast up into space with him. And he had the idea, well, while I'm up here, I might as well see if I can identify what I would assume to be shipwrecks. And he knew the Spanish thoroughfare, so he had that well mapped out in his head. And then he just wrote down coordinates, and he also he knew which islands he was flying over. So when he got back to Earth and, you know, got his accolades for his space flights, he put together a sea chart and then marked all the areas that he suspected there might be shipwrecks. And he put together a sea chart, and that was the sea chart that was part of the show, Cooper's Treasure.
How unbelievable is that? If I was him, I would have retired that day, and I would have found people to go. Forget going to outer space. I'm finding these treasures. That's it. I'm done.
Well, he did. He followed up on a lot of those, but his partner, Kip Wagner, died in 1972. And then that kind of ended the mission for him at that point. And he did still go out and do other things. He was the first guy to discover the Olmec civilization in Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
And he actually discovered that in 1969 by sheer accident, looking for a shipwreck. And they went ashore. They got dropped off in the ocean in a seaplane. They were getting attacked by bull sharks, so they swam to land, and they were asking the local farmers for help. And the farmers were saying, okay, you know, they barely spoke Spanish either, because they were Mayans. And then he was asking them, well, what's in these caves that you guys are working over? And he found out that the Mayans said, don't go in there. It's it's got ghosts and it's prohibited to go in. And he goes, okay, well, let me just check. And he goes, well, if you want to go in, you can go in. And he found out that that was an Olmec civilization stored in 3 different caves off the Yucatan coast, or not, the Veracruz, near Veracruz, Mexico.
Wow. Pull up tab 2. And while he pulls up tab 2, I mean, you have to wonder this more than anyone. You know, we go to outer space, we do all this other stuff. Why in the world don't we put time into going into the deep sea? I mean, there might be more down there than there is up there with the technology we have right now.
Well, according to Gordon, there's a lot of technology. They've done a lot of research, although they haven't done near as much as they will tell the public. It's kind of hard to say because water pressure is a lot harder to work with at deep depths than even space. And so that made it very difficult, especially back in the late 60s and in that period.
Yeah, and here's a little clip that we found.
Mm-hmm. That's in Campeche.
Wow.
I think he's going to pass that quickly. I promised him that whatever happens, one day I'll finish.
And this is from the show, correct? That you're filming on Discovery?
No, that was a show that I filmed for Discovery.
Okay.
I'm filming a new show. I'm doing a new show now.
Okay.
And millions of dollars at stake here.
Just as in all explorations in history,
And that's him there.
Wow.
its benefits have always been the hidden ones that were not known at the time of the explorations were going on.
One of the most difficult things about treasure hunting is getting people to believe.
And that's us looking for a shipwreck near Mexico.
Wow, man.
This trip to Mexico is all about.
What are the depths of these shipwrecks so people kind of know? How far down are some of these?
They're really deep. They average about 20 feet.
20 feet? Really?
Yeah, I was joking. Yeah, it's true.
I was like, what?
No, it truly is shallow waters because when you think about shipwrecks, they get pushed against shallow reefs
Okay.
and they sink. So most shipwrecks are in very shallow water.
And then how does it work with, I've heard the stories like, people finding buried, sunken treasures. How far off the coast do you have to be where it's considered not, I don't know, like you can claim it as yours, or, the government can't say
like
that's
airspace,
ours. Like how does that
airspace.
work?
Yeah, it's called international water lines, and the territorial waters of each country extend out. On average, it's 3 miles. Sometimes it's 12 miles. And then they have what they call economic zones. So if you fall within any of those 3 categories, you have to apply with that particular country. However, if you are lucky enough where you can find a shipwreck in international waters, you just go to an admiralty court and you file a claim that you found something interesting that you want to salvage it. You file that claim and it takes about a 90-day process. You have to advertise the find in a periodical or a newspaper. And if nobody claims it as theirs, you become a legal custodian to that shipwreck.
Wow. That's a whole thing there. And then Gordon, he was one of 7 that was part of the Mercury project?
Yeah, that's right.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And then later on, you and Gordon go and find rockets with NASA that are coming back from space, right? Like you go find them.
Well, my dad did that after he met Gordon. Gordon managed to get him a job through NASA collecting spent booster rockets. And if he identified where they were in the ocean, then my dad would get paid to do that. So that was something my dad did. I'm sure Gordon went with him a couple times, but I was really young then. We're talking early 70s. And I used to go out on the boat with my dad, but I was only 7.
Yeah.
In 1970, I was only 7. So, I was really young. And then it wasn't until I started getting older, at the age of 14, my dad invited me to, didn't invite me, he forced me to go with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't really want to do treasure hunting. It was not my interest. I didn't find it fascinating because I knew my dad, when he was doing it, was such a strange business. And I saw him and my mom arguing a lot about it, and it was a very, I don't know, it's a business where there's not a whole lot of honest people in that business per se. And it's modern day pirates are there. So it's pretty risky and, it's pretty cutthroat. And so my mom was really nervous when he brought me with him. However, it ended up working out. And we did have a lot of close calls with pirates, if you want to call it modern day pirates, and managed to survive. And here I am telling my story all these years later.
When you talk about that, the modern day pirates,
I know. I was just going to say that. Too.
We think of Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Jack Sparrow and all that type of stuff. But explain what that means. Like, there's people on ships, right, that are coming and they'll kill you to try to get the gold or whatever you have. Explain that, I guess.
Well, yeah, if you're working in an area and you become visible and you have a salvage vessel, like if you have the gear that salvage vessels use, they can identify that probably because they're familiar with it, and then they want to they either try to befriend you. It could be a myriad of different things that could happen to yourself, but a lot of times they'll just try to steal the shipwreck from you or anything that you may have, depending on how desperate each one of those persons are. And some are more dangerous than others. So, and today you still have that problem. I know that the 1715 fleet, there's still a bunch of treasure hunters out there that work that still today. And, each one is looking at the other one and talking badly about it. It's a weird business. It's very high school. They're very nice in parties, but when it comes to actual work ethics, none of them really have it.
Let's face it. After a night with drinks, I don't bounce back the next day like I used to. I have to make a choice, either a great night or a great next day. That is until I found Z-Biotics. We all have busy lives these days and can't afford to waste a day stuck on the couch because of a few drinks the night before. Z-Biotics is the answer we've all been looking for. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic is the first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Z-Biotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. It's designed to work like your liver, but in your gut, where you need it most. Just remember to drink Z-Biotics before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's of sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Order Z-Biotics now for your summertime barbecue, weddings, vacations, you name it. Go to zbiotics.com/MSCS Media or scan the QR code on the screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use MSCS Media checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription using my code, so you can stay prepared no matter the time or occasion. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're ever unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/MSCS Media, use the code MSCS Media at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, Z-Biotics, for sponsoring this episode. This episode is brought to you by Let's Get Checked. Are you the man your father was? Recent studies have shown that men's testosterone levels have dropped substantially since the 1980s at about an average of 1% per year. Think about how old your father was when he was born. For example, if he was 30, your testosterone levels could be 30% lower than his. Low testosterone levels can have all types of health effects on men. It can affect your mood, sex drive, memory, muscle mass loss, you name it. And yes, low testosterone is more common the older you get, but it can affect men at any age. So let's talk about today's sponsor, Let's Get Checked. You can order a testing kit that will be delivered to you in a discreet packaging with next-day delivery. Once your sample arrives in the laboratory, confidential results will be available from your secure online account within 2 to 5 days. So, if you want to test your hormone levels without having to leave your home, visit trylgc.com/MSCS Media and get 25% off your test using the code MSCS Media. The link is in the description at the top.
Would it be considered, like, I know this is kind of crazy, but like, gangs in cities have their areas, right? They have their territory, and that's my territory, and I'm selling my drugs there, and you come into that territory, get the fuck out. Kind of like that.
Yeah, it's pretty much like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
With the secret maps that you had gotten, what makes them? I mean, I understand that those are pinpointers to where treasures may be, but what makes them so top secret other than the value, or is it just the value of it?
Well, because you don't want to give away information that potentially could be a large vessel with treasure, a treasure-laden vessel. And Gordon was good at locating a lot of them. He located the Atocha that Mel Fisher found in the 80s. He had a big hit in 1985, but Gordon located that from space in the 60s, early 60s.
Wow.
And, so that's what I'm talking about. And then there was another wreck called the Maravillas, which a very famous person is working on now named Carl Allen. And he has a legal permit to do that. But Gordon also saw that from space.
Wow.
So a lot of the shipwrecks that he did identify, the wreckage area. Now, it doesn't mean, hey, there's a shipwreck, I can see the gold. You don't do that. You just go to that area, you mag the area with a magnetometer, and if you come up with anomalous readings from ferrous metals, then you dive down with metal detectors and look for whatever treasure may be associated with that debris field. And so it's a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of time. I'm here in Spain working on a project that I'm currently filming, that I'm doing the research here in Spain. That's why I'm in Spain.
And what are you doing the research on there in Spain?
I can't tell you.
Oh, okay. All right, well, guess what? That gives me a reason to manipulate you into coming back to then telling me what the hell you were doing in Spain.
Yeah.
Well, you'll be able to hear about it in a few months down the road, and I'll make an announcement on my social media when I'm able to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, I have to ask you this, just a little off. All this UFO, IPA, coming in and out of the water, blah, 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 blah. What's your take on all that?
I approach things as a scientist. Doesn't matter what I may or may not believe in. Until I can prove it, it's just me hypothesizing that there may be something there. Do I believe that there's stuff there? Yes. Can I prove it? Not as of yet. Gordon told me a lot of things in secret that makes me a true believer. And so I do believe, albeit I haven't I've witnessed UFOs on my own. I've seen things that are unexplainable. I've gone through the Bermuda Triangle and got caught in a storm, and then all of our mechanical equipment died. The electronics went out, navigational equipment went out, and we were stranded there. It was really scary. So I've been through the gamut of different circumstances and been lucky to survive them. But do I believe there's something out there? Absolutely. That's my belief. Can I prove it? Not yet.
Well, maybe
not yet.
Not yet. That's big, because maybe you'll be the one that just has one piece. If you would see my studio, I have UFOs. I got stars on the ceilings, everything. But I got to the point where I thought, there's no way. If you can bend time and come 15 million light years, what, you're going to crash when you make it to Earth? But maybe they gave it as a gift, to advanced technology. I don't know. But if Gordon thinks that they came here, my mind has just changed.
Yeah. Well, he believed that they were amongst us.
That makes sense to me. Yeah.
I mean, that's what he believed. However, I don't want to say something that I can't prove he told me that. I'm just saying this secondhand that yes, he believed in that. He believed highly in it. He believed in, he worked with secret government programs back long time ago. And a lot of the stuff that you're hearing that's coming out now, that's finally making the news and the mainstream media, even, who usually hide the truth because they're told to. Right. They're bringing stuff out that you would never have heard of 10 years ago. And Gordon told me about that stuff 30 years ago.
Wow. So either there's too many, or they just really need to deflect everything that's going on. One of the two.
We don't know. We don't know the reasoning behind it, but I believe there's all sorts of reasons. It maybe the public would panic. Religious beliefs would probably be compromised because there's no real talk about that in religion. Me being a recovering Catholic, I know that.
I think the Pope, though, the Pope accepted it. The Pope accepted it.
Well, he has to, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the people that are up in the super secret societies, they know what's going on.
Yeah.
But we're never going to know. They'll tell us when they're ready to tell us. And, you know, that's what I believe. That's how government works. And I guess I kind of get it. But, you know, it's kind of selfish, but I kind of get it. Because, I don't know, the public is, they might take things... People talk before they think a lot, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of BS out there too when it comes to this. When you're talking about alien contact and things, especially on the internet now, a lot of the stuff looks so real, and it's, you know, it's got to be fake,
right?
You know, so I don't know. You know, it's frustrating not to be able to just, okay, look, if you're going to tell the story, tell it straight.
I'm right with you. And it got, like Rob will tell you, I went down to this rabbit hole where I had every astrophysicist in you could think of, every scientist that was working on it, neuroscientist, just to figure it out. And it was just like a circle jerk almost, you know? And, you know, from a science standpoint, if you just say what it is or what's going on, then you can have, say, 50 of the best working on it. Instead of, if they are doing what they say they're doing, you take one lunatic that you can discredit and you say, hey, buddy, here's this, reverse engineer it. And then when one guy can't do it in 3 years, you know, you wipe him off the face of the earth as if he doesn't exist, then you bring another one. And so from a science aspect, you know, you want that there.
Yeah. Well, my uncle Darrell, who I'm named after.
Oh, cool.
My dad idolized his brother, so he named me after his older brother. He was an inventor, and he built things. He built the what today is the Talon, or no, I mean, it's not, used to be called the Talon, the taser that the police used to shoot at criminals.
Holy shit!
He invented that technology, but it was on a glove. You put it on a glove, and it was called the Eagle's Talon. It had claws on the end of it, and you would have to touch the perpetrator, but that was too close contact with a possible dangerous perpetrator. So they took the technology, he sold that, and they developed the taser, where you shoot it at the perpetrator and you shoot him. And then so because my uncle was that type of person who invented a lot of stuff, my dad financed on behalf of Gordon a model of a UFO that's no bigger than 2.5 feet in diameter, made out of fiberglass with aluminum on the inside and with electromagnetic propulsion, and it actually flew.
Really?
Yeah. And Gordon wouldn't tell us how or where he got the technology, but my uncle built it. It flew, and it was pretty amazing. I was there in 1990 when they flew it. And it actually, my uncle had put a radio antenna receiver on the spacecraft, and then he would try and fly it like a radio controlled aircraft that a lot of people fly their model airplanes with. And it was spinning, the top part was spinning at 10,000 RPMs, and that's how it got its lift. And once it was up, it didn't really have a power source. It was just self-perpetuating motion. But my uncle, it would interfere with the signal, so it ran out of we couldn't get the signal to it, so it got out of control, and we're all running down the street. Oh my God, everybody's going to think it's a UFO, and we're trying to chase this thing down, and we're going, it is a UFO, but they're going to think it's from outer space. And my uncle managed to get it to a lower elevation. My dad threw a blanket on it, got it down to the ground, and we carried it away and snuck it back in the house where we were playing with it.
So you pretty much had an experience with an anti-propulsion system that moves.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was pretty cool.
You got a family of geniuses over there, buddy.
So.
Can I have a couple IQ points? I mean, shit. Holy hell.
I wouldn't have been able to design it. It was just Gordon's design. My uncle built it, and then my dad paid for it.
One thing,
was
my
really cool.
my mind has changed again, but I'm sticking with this one. So with your Discovery show, how did that come about? How did Discovery find you, and what made you make the decision to do the reality show? Because, you know, some of these, we had on Chris, I forget how you say his last name, but Chris, and he was Gator Boys. And his issue was with the reality, you know, they're dealing with alligators and nutty stuff, and they would write the script to other cast members to kind of set him up in a really, really dangerous situation to make it good reality TV, to the point where he was just like, this is too dangerous.
Well, it was different. See, I was a treasure hunter, and I had a company that I was running with a business partner at the time. And we got a phone call, and it was a producer. And he goes, "Hi, my name's Ari, and I'm looking to do a television show on treasure hunting, but something's different, not just the mainstream type of treasure hunting shows. I want to do something different. Tell me about your life." And when I told him about my relationship with Gordon and how I went treasure hunting with him, and he goes, "You're lying." And I went, "Okay, dude, I don't even know who you are. You're on the other end of the phone. I don't know if you're lying. I don't even know if you're a TV producer." And so I hung up on him. He called me back, and he goes, "No, let's meet. I'm too intrigued by the story." And once I brought him all the documentation to prove that I was good friends with astronaut Gordon Cooper and that we had worked together, that's how the show was born. And then they developed a sizzle reel, and Discovery Channel bought it. But all the networks were fighting for it. And my show wasn't scripted, so it's not like they wrote thing. They didn't write scenes for us.
Good. Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, TV is produced in some ways. You have to re-dive in if they want to get a beauty shot. You have to, you know, that part. Yes, that's just TV. TV's not linear like life, so you can film 10 scenes and then they'll match it in order that they want to make the audience understand the storyline better. But it's not. My show wasn't scripted. It's not like we were going, "My name is Darrell. Oh boy, look what we discovered." No, it's none of that.
Yeah.
It was just them following us based on the information that I got from Gordon. And that's how the show was born.
That's awesome.
It was pretty cool.
And an interesting fact I saw with Gordon, he passed in 2004, and in 2004 you went through an earthquake, right? During your wife was pregnant in 2004 as well. Now that's weird. Now that's a little. I think he was saying to you, because wasn't his last words kind of finish this off? You know, like keep it going.
Finish what I started. Finish what I couldn't.
I think he gave you a bump there. You know, like hey.
Yeah. Well, we were in the Turks and Caicos. Oh, by the way, I wanted to give a shout out to Steven Spielberg's company. Amblin TV also produced it. So they were really nice, very creative.
Congratulations.
So it was a good show. You know, we had a good run. But when we first started filming the show in late 2015, we filmed it for like 3 years. It's bizarre. It took a long time. It was a lot longer than what most TV shows take to produce. But in late 2015, we were in the Turks and Caicos, and I was sitting on the beach. I don't know if it made TV or not, but the producers asked me, "So do you think Gordon's up there watching you now?" And I went, "Hey, Gordo, show me a sign." And right then and there, a big lightning bolt went down. I went, "Holy crap." And I go, "Did you guys get that?" And they did. They got it on TV.
Really?
They filmed it. It was really cool. And it felt like he was there. Made my skin crawl. You know.
That just gave me goosebumps, because I'm you know, like I told you, I went down this dark hole. Yeah, pull up tab 3, and it's also now it's on YouTube, Amazon Prime, Discovery, right? You can watch it. And do you think with the Titanic, do you think there's anything left down there at the Titanic?
I imagine that there is a lot of valuable belongings down there.
Discovery did a great job on the homepage. I'll say that. Like that gets you interested in that just alone.
Oh, that photo?
Yeah. It just makes you, but you wonder. It's kind of like, ugh. Now, what did you?
Yeah, that was interesting. That was fun. It almost felt like we were in a spaceship in slow motion.
Yeah, scroll
I
down,
remember,
please.
I remember thinking that was the closest I'll ever be to getting in space in a spaceship.
I don't know, man. At the rate you're going, who knows? The
Yeah.
things you're accomplishing and doing in your family, anything can happen. Now, when you saw
Yeah.
that other, I guess you could call it a half of a sub, goes down there, it never even passed the test even close to how far it had to go down. The Titanic that got stuck, 2 months ago?
Yeah, the little sub thing.
That little sub thing, it didn't even pass any of the testings. Like how am I right?
I know. I don't know that it did or didn't. I can't say because I don't know. However, it was really strange. About 6 months ago, not even 6 months ago, maybe 5 months ago, I was in the Turks and Caicos. I was there by accident, and we ended up getting there because we had a engine problem with one of our boats. I was on my way through and beyond Turks and Caicos, but we had to go to the Turks and Caicos on an emergency run, and we managed to get the boat to a marina. And when I got to the marina, there was this guy who came up and goes, "Hey, Darrell." And I went, "What?" I look around, he goes, "It's me. I worked on your show on Cooper's Treasure." I went, "Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't recognize him." But he knew me, obviously, and we had a conversation. And that was right when that happened. And he had told me that he had piloted that very same sub 8 times himself and went down to the Titanic and took people down and had 8 successful trips, obviously, because he was still alive. And I had no idea that he was part of that sub program, but he went and he told me that, yeah, the Navy had known that it had imploded, but they failed to tell anybody of their findings right away. I just thought it was kind of mean that for whatever reason, they didn't mention it, whether they were checking to be sure or whatever could be the case. I don't know. I'm not the Navy, but they knew that it met its demise on the very first few hours that it was down there. But they didn't tell the family members, and everybody's sitting there waiting for hope. And, for 3 days, I think it was, for a possible saving of the ship, but it was already gone. And he told me that was the part that bugged him the most.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Yeah. I've heard that and other stories, and there was a bunch of guys that it just didn't seem right, and they got out of it, and they were, thankful as can be that they got out of it. But, people get on a crusade, and, they want to get down there and see what's there. So, I mean,
do you
yeah, well, look, everybody, you have to know the risks that you're taking,
right?
And everything that we do, including me, not near as risky as that. Albeit, I did go in that little sub that you saw there in the previous slide you had. I went down in that, and I was nervous. I think I went down 1,200 feet. To me, that was deep. I've never been that deep underwater. I'm a shallow shipwreck salver. So shallow water is what I do. I don't do deep water. It's too expensive, and it just takes too much money and too much equipment and time. I'd rather go for the shallow water, the low hanging fruit, if you want to put it. But it was an experience to do that. I was glad I did it. But, I'll stick to diving in shallower water wrecks, especially the older I get. And, I have kids. I want to, I want to see them get married.
Yeah, right.
I want to be a granddad someday,
Even on the shallow dives, do you have to prep a lot? Like, get your cardio right or your endurance right? Is there a lot of that to it?
Well, it's like anything that you do. The healthier you are, the easier anything that's physically straining is going to be easier. So I try to stay healthy. I'm older now. I'm 60.
Wow, I don't look 60. Oh, I would have thought 45 maybe.
Good.
Yeah, no, thanks. So I try to stay and eat healthy and stay in shape. And because, the older you get, my bones hurt a lot more. I get some arthritis pains and stuff like that, but, you have to stay fit for it. So, but any special thing, no, most anybody could dive in shallow water. However, it's getting in and out of the boat that is harder than the actual diving itself, because you've got the gear on, and any slight movement of the boat, if you've got wave movement, wave action, and wind, getting up on the boat, it's very dangerous in some cases. And you get hit by a boat in the head, and if it comes down on you as you're trying to get up the ladder on the back, and if you miss it, it's
going to
very
be a problem.
dangerous.
It's going to be a problem, right?
Yeah. Yep.
How much sea life do you think, or maybe you've seen a lot that we've have unidentified, we have no idea about?
Well, see, that most of the unidentified sea life is probably in the really deep waters, and it makes sense. They're unidentified because we don't go down that deep. Technology's not there yet, or if it is, it's not ready-made for the public. So a lot of that is down in deep waters. In shallow waters, I don't know. I'm not a fish expert. Everybody thinks I know how to fish, and so do you see any bluefin? I'm going, I don't even know what a bluefin is, only because you told me it has blue fins. So, I'm not a fisherman. Right. I don't fish, but most treasure hunters do fish. I don't. So I don't really know about sea life, other than I love when I'm in the water. One of my favorite parts about it is the contact that I have with the sea life. I was once approached by a baby dolphin and his mother.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, what's that like? Because they're dolphins and whales. They think whales are smarter than us. Correct me if I'm wrong, or as smart.
Again, I don't know the measurements of the consciousness of a whale or a dolphin. However, I'm assuming they're very smart. Do I think they can communicate the way we do and be conscious about everything like we are? I don't think so. No. However, for sea life, they're probably very intelligent. I know octopuses are, octopi, and dolphins are. I mean, my encounters with them are fantastic. That's my favorite part. I always say that's my office that I get to play in,
Yeah.
And I'm just renting it from them because it's their home. Because when you're actually diving, you're in a different world, and it feels like a different world, and it never gets old to me, diving. I love diving. I feel like you have these dreams when you're a kid that you can fly. It's the closest feeling to flying in slow motion.
Right.
It's just really cool. There's this weightlessness, and you get a feeling of being in space, and it's really cool. I love diving, especially beautiful, clear water. I don't like to dive in murky or dirty waters with no visibility, which a lot of treasure hunters have to work in. And lucky for me, I'm not in those types of waters. However, I have worked in situations like that. So, but yeah, I love diving.
Yeah.
I love sea life. I love everything about it.
I would imagine it's almost like a sense of therapy. Because you go down there and you're away from everything else. I mean, even though it's not like a gazillion feet, still you're just out there. There's no noise, no craziness, just peace almost within.
It is. Yeah. It's very quiet. I remember I was trying to dislodge a cannonball, and I had a hammer and a crowbar, a mini crowbar, and was trying to dislodge this cannonball, and all these hundreds of beautiful tropical fish, the kind you see in fish stores, they were all circling me. They're all so curious as to what this big animal's doing. And as soon as I stopped trying to dislodge the cannonball, they all attacked the cannonball thinking it was food. And then I would go back down there, and they'd get up and they'd watch and they'd wait for the right moment. Then when I'd stop to try and get it, it was just
how cool is that?
Cool.
Yeah, that seems so cool.
Little things like that make my job so much fun.
Yeah, because it's fun because you're almost playing with them. Yeah. You're almost like throwing ball with like the dog out back.
Yeah, and they can tell that you're not a predator because you haven't tried to attack them, especially if you go out in the areas where a lot of divers don't go. That's when the sea life is much more accessible because they're not afraid of you because they've never seen you before and they don't know you to be a predator. And we move slow compared to them in the water. So, they're more curious and in that case, I've had turtles come up to me, dolphins,
That's so cool.
manta rays,
Manta rays?
yeah,
Wow.
big ones. Yeah,
Wow.
there's
That's
a
just
lot of cool stuff.
that's so neat.
When you
Wow, man.
when you're there, you're under the water, you're got your coordinates, or you're trying to figure out, the shipwrecks or where they're at, like just go through the process of what it takes to find treasure. Like, what do you do? How do you go through that process?
Well, you have to go on a good lead for one. And beans, I had information from Gordon, and he's telling me that this particular wreck was well known. The manifest says it was carrying certain amounts of treasure. So you have to go in and you have to identify it. When you're doing a magnetometer, it picks up the ferrous metals or iron objects only. It won't pick up gold or silver or any non-ferrous metals, albeit they're trying to develop one that does now, but it identifies iron artifacts. So once you've identified a debris field and you go down there and you find bronze spikes or any type of spikes, certain types of spikes were made at certain times, certain different periods throughout the centuries, and you can tell how old that wreck is. But the most identifying part would be a bell, obviously, which there's very few of those. Cannons. You can tell the date of a shipwreck by the cannons. They put the trunnions in different positions on the cannons. The trunnions are the things that it's swiveled off of.
Yeah.
And then obviously if you find coins are the number one thing that tell you what year the ship is. So
What was the oldest coin you found? I have a friend. He's one of those guys that goes to every single coin show on the planet. Like I don't even know what there are. Sometimes we'll stop by and he's got 17 things of Tommy of coins, and he's like, this one, that one's this one's that. Well, what's the oldest or just most fascinating one?
Well, the ones that I found off the Christopher Columbus shipwreck were the ones that I found with my father. I mean, I think I found one from the 1300s near Panama with my dad. But the ones in the late 1400s,
now
that was pretty neat, just because it had the history of being part of Christopher Columbus made it even more valuable to me.
Hell yeah, man.
Now, so the shipwreck, however far offshore it is, I mean, you got to figure however many years it's been sitting down there, right? And then through storms and through all that type of stuff, you may have a coordinate, but that stuff can get pushed, right? I mean, all those coins can get pushed away, or not really?
Everybody says that, and not really, to be honest with you, because once heavy metals, and silver's very heavy and so is gold, and once it works its way into crevices, it'll stay there and sometimes not move at all. Now, obviously, if you're working on a shipwreck that's in a very shallow reef where the waves crash on it, and even just from the changing of the tides, you might get movements of the wreck, but it's not going to go very far. Gotcha. It's so rather very simple. Identifying shipwrecks is easy. Yeah, I could go in the middle of the ocean and find a shipwreck even if I had no charts. I just would know where to go. I can go by a map, a sea chart, and go, okay, I'm going to go investigate that reef. And if I know that it's where the Spanish were, I'm sure I'll find a shipwreck. Now, whether it has treasure on it, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
So you do have to do a lot of research. If you're after a known small fleet of ships, going to Seville, Spain, and visiting the archives of the Indies is a good way to do it. But you can access that stuff online, but through their webpage. You have to get a special permit to do that, but because they don't really let people in there anymore to handle artifacts or the actual documents.
Of course not.
A lot has changed. The world of treasure hunting is a dying industry. I'd say in about 3 to 5 years, it will be illegal to treasure hunt anywhere all over the world.
What?
Because UNESCO, ENA, which is from Mexico, all these other academic organizations, they look at all of us as thieves.
Yep.
That we are, robbing the rich cultural history of the past, and that we're profiting from it. But if you think about it,
such bullshit. I read an article on that. That's such bullshit.
Well, they're doing the same thing when you think about it.
Yeah.
They're getting government grant money to undergo a project. If they're salvaging shipwrecks, they're doing the same thing. They're getting paid by somebody, so they're profiting. If they open up a museum, they're profiting by paying customers to come in there. So it's a highbrow way of thinking that they're scientists and that they are not destroying anything. That's where they try to draw the line, that we don't approach it scientifically like they do. But I can guarantee you that we approach a shipwreck no different than any of these guys do. I mean, look, there are some idiots out there, but I know a lot of idiots in the academic industry who are just as
me too
dumb as the people they purport to hate, and just as careless and unprofessional as the people they purport to hate. So, I don't believe in any of what it is they say. But again, power and control, like a lot of things in government and anywhere else, it eventually does win, because there's no one who has the power to fight UNESCO or the state of Florida or any other country if you find a shipwreck in their waters. Even if you plan on paying for it yourself and sharing the profits with them, they won't work with you. And any archaeologist that does cross that side and work with treasure hunters is blacklisted and will not be able to work within the academic organizations anymore. So it's really frowned upon. They really dislike us. And I even offered to work with an organization, say, look, I know where 100 shipwrecks are. I will give you the exact coordinates. I want to work with you. I will pay for my own way. You guys handle your expenses. All I want is credit that I worked with you. And you guys can take it from there. And they said, nope.
That is the problem with everything. With the shipwrecks, with the UFO, with anything. It's like, geez.
They want the whole cake, man.
They want the whole cake, and then they want it figured out, but they want to have 4 idiots that they think are smart because they have some certificate, not the guy that's been doing it for 40 years, right?
Yeah, well, look, the treasure hunters, there wouldn't be underwater archaeology had it not been for treasure hunters.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And try to go to school and become a marine archaeologist. Good luck getting a job.
Yeah, good
luck. Because they work so far and few between projects. Most of their work is done in an office setting. I have more hours underwater than probably people who have been underwater archaeologists for 30 years, only because they're not in the water all the time.
Combined, you got more than them, just from what I read the last 2 days on it. And not to mention the experience you have from your father and everything. They're just assholes, man. Just assholes.
Yeah.
I know you've done a lot of shipwrecks in the Bahamas. Why so many in the Bahamas?
Because that was the main thoroughfare. There was, it was the route that took them to the New World. Cuba being number one. I mean, just north of Cuba is the Bahamas Islands. You've got all that. And that was and then you had the Florida Straits and the currents. The currents helped make their decision in which route to take, because the Florida Straits have a current that take them right back to Spain. And that's what it was. And it was easier to see. Bahamas is a bastardization of the Spanish words Bahamars, which means low seas. So, and so, which meant be very careful. And as soon as a storm comes, that beautiful differentiation in colors of 7 different shades of blue, darker blue being deeper water and the lightest blue and green being shallow water, disappears when winds pick up and you get white caps. Everything looks gray. And that's why they all ran aground everywhere. So even though it was great for fair seas because of the currents, it was bad if you happened to be passing through when a storm came. Even a mild storm could push you up on shallow reefs, and shipwrecks would just pile up there century after century. I know an area in the Bahamas where you can find shipwrecks from 300 years apart. They all, it's like that dangerous curve in the road. They all,
it's like that guy. He gets that bottle of moonshine out, and he goes, "All right, boys, let's go. You got another bottle of moonshine before we take this one." You know.
Yeah, and the age of piracy started in the Bahamas, so it was a big deal there.
Wow,
that's why there's so much treasure out there.
Wow, that's so interesting.
Now we're stationed. Our studio's in Palm Beach Island. I'm sure you know where that's at, right? And so we got the Treasure Coast just to the north of us. How many? And you would know this more than I would. How many shipwrecks would you estimate are out there, and why do they call it the Treasure Coast? I know why, but just so the viewers understand.
They call it the Treasure Coast because of the 1715 fleet, but albeit there's a lot of shipwrecks out there. Not all of them were carrying treasure, but every single shipwreck did have some form of currency on them because they didn't travel with credit cards back then. They had to have money to buy merchandise, or they were carrying valuable merchandise with them on the ship. So there are hundreds of them along the Florida coast. However, if you get into the Bahamas and you go back in there, especially or in and around Cuba, Mexico, Central America, South America, there's literally hundreds of thousands of them. When I went to Seville in the archives of the Indies, the director there told me if you took all of our paperwork that the Spanish managed to collect and save since Christopher Columbus till, the early 1800s, it would span out. If you laid each page next to each other, it would go 42 miles.
Wow.
That's how much documentation they saved. They were very good records keepers, the Spanish. And, even if you managed to get in a storm and survive the storm and make your ship back to Spain, and once you told the story, if they weren't happy with the way you handled yourself, or they would behead you or kill you right then and there. I'm in Spain right now, and just to imagine the mindset of the Spanish back then, they were not a nice group of people,
to say the least, right?
Yeah, and I love Spain, but when you think about, but again, everybody back then, it was just so much more brutal. I don't even know if I'm even saying that correctly because people haven't changed much today. However, back then it was just different. It was in your face more. It didn't matter if somebody got beheaded. The public hangings was a thing of the kids would go see on the weekends. You wouldn't do that now. However, man hasn't changed since.
Yeah.
Much.
Yeah, back then. He's getting hanged. Yep. Where are we going tonight?
What's for dinner after?
I don't know what he did.
The guillotine, all those things. It's just gruesome.
I had a friend of the family. He was a treasure hunter. He found one down in Florida. He found one. You'll laugh at this one. He spent forever because his dad, kind of pushed him into doing it, and he found one. However much money, took the money, went to the Dominican Republic, never came back.
Wow.
Because you could buy a house there for like $25,000 and not get killed. So whatever he found, he took it and got the hell out. But, and I saw that when I was reading about you, he had talked about Panama a lot. When you were in Panama and going through those wrecks, take us through that. Panama is very interesting to me.
Well, Panama, they knew about the isthmus being such a narrow body of land, and they didn't have the canal back then, but they used to use the mule trains. And so the Pacific and the Atlantic coast were only separated by that small isthmus. And you could cross it in like a half hour to 45 minutes in a car today. And if they had better roads, you could probably do it in 20 minutes, but it's windy and not like that. So they would mint coins down in South America and in Mexico, and they would move these ships from whichever coastline, and then they would cross them over the isthmus and bring them mostly to Havana, Cuba. Havana, Cuba, in Cuba has probably had more shipwrecks than any other island in the Caribbean.
Really?
Because coins would come out of Mexico City, then to Veracruz, off to Havana, and then once they hit Havana, they either picked up more coins or dropped off coins. and then they'd head back to Spain. And a lot of coins were minted in South America, and they would load the mules with sacks of coins on their backs, and they'd line them up in a mule train, go over the hills. In fact, there's a lot of mule trail, they call it, where you could find coins that spilled. So when the mules were crossing, storms come out of nowhere in the Caribbean and in that part of the world, even on the Pacific, and it would cause the mules to lose their footing. They tumble down the hills. The mules would die, and the coins would just be spread, thousands and tens of thousands of these coins all over those mule trails. You'd have to find the right trail, which we did.
Wow.
On a couple of instances.
Yeah.
And so,
go ahead.
No, so I mean, Panama is very interesting. It's just one of those unique places geographically in the world where you could transfer things across land in a shorter period of time than, across Mexico or South America.
So that's what it was. It was easier to do it that way. I just always wondered why. And I had read a lot of like treasure hunters out there in Panama, and I like Panama for a bunch of different reasons.
Yeah, Panama's beautiful.
Yeah. Definitely different than here. A lot different than here. Now, in season 2 of the Cooper treasure, talk about how you found, what was it, 15,000 foot long obstruction jutted. I can't say it right, but what you I watched it last night. I was like, holy shit.
But you know what? I'm going to be honest with you, and everybody that I talked to about that takes that whole story was blown way out of proportion. Okay, it's not what everybody says is unidentified or USO sitting at the bottom of the sea, 15,000 foot long. No, it wasn't that at all. It was a linear projectile sticking out of a seawall that spread across. That didn't make sense. We had thought that perhaps it was a mast of a ship that was coral had grown on it, but then a wooden mast wouldn't grow like that. It would never work. In a current situation, it would just disintegrate because wood is organic. So we thought it was a metal mast. The gentleman that I worked with had been in that area before with a crew and after, and what they believe this really to be is remnants of an ancient civilization, not a UFO. Now, granted, I don't know if ancient civilizations have anything in connection with other world entities or not. I don't know. I can't prove it either. So, but I saw things down there that looked like, foundations to buildings, but 300 feet underwater, that would mean that would be 16 to 20,000 years ago for that to be at sea level and or above. So that's the stuff that we saw. And for some reason, it just got taken out of context that there was an alien spaceship. I don't know how that happened. It just morphed into that. Now, granted, I would love to find a UFO or a USO.
I wish you could tell me you found one. Yeah, when I was watching it, I was just like, all right, well, that looks really huge. Okay.
Yeah, well, it was a big ominous object sticking out of a seawall, and there was more than one, and then there was other figures there that made no sense that Mother Nature couldn't have created. So they were either, let's call it man-made objects, but made tens of thousands of years ago. So to me, that's just as interesting, because to build those kind of structures back in that time period took a lot of technology to build stuff like that. So, maybe the connection, and maybe that's how it kind of got the speed on this UFO story discovered by Darrell Miklos.
I'll tell you what,
I've tried to explain it 1,000 times. It's just as exciting to me to find an ancient civilization, supposedly. It's not proven, but the guy that I went down with in the submarine, him and his people have done a lot of work in that area, and they believe that that's what it is, and I believe it too. But again, what I believe is not concrete evidence. You have to have scientific evidence, because it's You learn. I could probably sell a lot of stories telling people what I think is true,
Right.
and get people all hyped up about it. But I really want people to take away the truth. And the truth is, I can't say what it is other than what I believe. And that one thing I do know is Mother Nature doesn't make right angle objects in the ocean. I've never seen it, and not that many, not so many in one area. So there's something else down there that wasn't made by Mother Nature. And that's, to me, that's as equally as fascinating as finding a flying object that sank to the bottom of the ocean. You know what I mean?
Me too. Me too. Because I'll tell you what, though, that's so respectable, because I bet you 8.5 out of 10 would have been like, oh yeah, absolutely, for sure. You know, so I really respect that. And it just shows how passionate you are about your career. You know.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Manscaped.com. Breaking news, Manscaped now sells beard products. That's right, they are once again revolutionizing men's grooming with brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. From a beard trim to a fresh shave, the technology behind Beard Hedger Pro Kit allows you to shave your signature beard look. Now you can finally use Manscaped products to make your drapes match your carpet by going to Manscaped.com and using code MSCS Media for 20% off and free shipping. No one likes a weird beard, so say goodbye to all the stubble trouble with Manscaped's Pro Beard Kit. It all starts with the Beard Hedger. This thing is a monster of fixing faces. First off, this cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths, all with one guard. No more messing around in drawers, this color one, that color one, all with one guard. Plus, it's waterproof, so you can shave in the shower and avoid all that hair in the sink. The Pro Kit doesn't end there, though. First, there's the beard shampoo and conditioner. You need to remember your hair is different. Next, Manscaped's beard oil. Cap it off with beard balm. The Pro Kit also comes with 3 different gifts: a beard brush, comb, and scissors to ensure your beard is ready to impress. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code MSCS Media at Manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at Manscaped.com. Use the code MSCS Media. This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. Let's talk about sex. Guys, remember the days when you're always ready to go? Now you can increase your performance and get that extra confidence in bed. Listen up, BlueChew.com. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable tablets at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever the opportunity arises. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part? It's all done online. So no visits to the doctor's office, awkward conversations, waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped direct to your door in a discreet package. Does it work? Don't think you need it? Try it free for a month and see. You're going to love it. You could be missing the best sex of your life. They say there's nothing sexier than confidence, and Blue Chew can help give you the confidence where it counts. Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. Discover your options at BlueChew.com. Chew it and do it. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use the promo code MSCS at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com. Promo code MSCS to receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. We thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.
I just wanted everything to be truthful, and it's fascinating still. And I would love, like I said, I'd love to be able to prove that there was an ancient civilization down there, but it's very expensive. It's really time consuming. It's dangerous because it's deep water. The gentleman that I drove down there with in the submarine, his people do it. I'm not trained to dive on deep water. I'm not really interested in it, only because I've been a shallow shipwreck recovery specialist. We call ourselves instead of treasure hunter. But I have been a treasure hunter, mostly working on shallow shipwrecks, shallow water shipwrecks. and to go down 300 feet, you can't stay down there very long. I've got a family, and I would have probably done that kind of diving when I was younger, but as I get older, I go, so no, not my cup of tea. I'll go down in a submarine and watch make discoveries and recoveries with a mechanical arm or something like that. I wouldn't mind doing that at that depth. But diving at that depth, it's just so dangerous, and you have to be really passionate about diving deep. And there's only a few men or women qualified to do that. And I'm not qualified to do that, but it was a fantastic discovery. And I think there's a lot more to the story. And I think it may reveal something that is exciting. If a lot of people want to refer to it as like the lost city of Atlantis. Hey, I don't know what Atlantis looks like, and I don't think anybody really does. And there's no sign saying, welcome to the city of Atlantis, or you are now leaving the city of Atlantis. Whatever civilization was down there, I do believe that there probably was some lost civilization that's underwater. I absolutely, totally believe that. However, it still requires proof. And the only way you can prove it is with evidence. And, I could probably write a book about, I think I discovered the lost city of Atlantis. People would probably buy it in droves, but I only want to tell the truth. So I'm not going to make up stories just to make a buck.
And if you did find it, they probably somehow make you look like a tin hat, like Graham Hancock. Him and his buddy Ron, they were out there in the which desert was it? They were out there doing archaeology for years and years and years, and they had found so much stuff that they had to hide it. They had to hide it until they could build a facility to make sure that the government didn't know that they had it. They're out in like the Amazon rainforest, and they found all kinds of stuff from other civilizations. So if they found it, and they have like physical proof dated by professionals, it didn't go into the ocean? It just went there? I'm sure. And plus, you could see legit pictures, kind of, that it looks like a city to me down there, or that there was.
Yeah, no, I totally believe that. And it just makes total sense. I mean, the water table has risen, it's fallen, life has been on this planet a lot longer than any of us can really say it. Mm-hmm. And we don't know the stages or the technologies that were built. It could have been civilizations that were wiped out, that lost technologies. I mean, look at the pyramids in Egypt.
Yeah.
I don't know how they built that, and I don't think anybody really does. A lot of people think that, it's leverage using sand and all that. Not an 80-ton solid rock that fits so snugly you can't even stick a knife between it and the next rock.
No.
But, look, again, I can't prove it, though. However, prove to me that a man could have built that, too. It's just as improvable as my idea that they had other help or other, you know what I mean? It's just as far-fetched to me to believe that man had the ability to build something like the Great Pyramids in Egypt by themselves. I just don't see it. Unless they had some sort of extra intelligence and math that they were using, and then they all died off, and that whole technological advancement died with it. I don't know. That could be too.
The best way it was explained to me by like someone that you would actually listen to was, if you take a vibrating razor and you put it on the table right now, it will move a little bit, right? So say you have 100,000 years with the technology of that vibrating razor, you can make that move, and then telepathic. And it seems as if other civilizations were more within, wasn't so much like your status, my status, within nature and everything else. And it was, the best way it was explained to me was a set of vibration, frequency, and telepathic. So it's either that or aliens. One of the two.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of things inscribed in Egypt, in the hieroglyphics and the caricatures that they inscribed into the walls. that really make you have to think twice. What is that illustration that they're showing there? You know, I mean, there's a place in India where there's a figure of a man riding a bicycle 3,500 years ago.
It's crazy, right?
I mean, it is crazy.
What-
And, you know, you could see it so clearly. It's a bicycle. He's got his hands on the handlebars, 2 wheels, a thing that looks like a chain or a way to move it, and it pedals. It was so obvious. And there's all sorts of weird things. I went down there with a scientist to Egypt, and he was telling me that thing looks very similar to a coil that they use today to transmit radio waves or electronic waves signatures. And he goes, it's striking, and he was shocked by it. And there's way too many things down there. But again, you know, it's too bad you just can't fly back in time and talk to somebody and figure it all out. But, you know.
Yeah, and so how did you get 9 of them to point at you got one in Mexico that is directly with the one in Egypt, that's directly with the one in that, and within what, like 1 degree of the North Pole or something? Just give me 5 seconds with you, buddy.
Well, yeah, I think if you multiply the width of the Great Pyramid in Egypt by 42,100, it's the same it's the radius of the Earth.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Also the same radius or the circumference of the Earth. It's weird.
Darrell, it's dead on. And they're all like dead on wherever they're at. It's, I don't know.
It is.
I'll take it for a ride.
I believe that there's so much that we don't know. And hopefully we'll be alive long enough to find out what it is, or at least our kids, as long as man doesn't kill themselves before then. You know?
Which
you know,
it's not looking very good right now.
I'm more worried about that than I am, you know, anything else, because the state of the world that we live in today is just insane. I grew up, I feel like I grew up, I always tease my kids. Yeah, when your dad was born, when I was born, everything was in black and white. Now everything is in color. And I grew up with phones that you had to dial like this.
The rotary dialer.
Yeah, the rotary dialers. And, you know, I played on the streets, stayed out until dark by myself. Nobody told me to wear a helmet. And things are so different. But the world, how it's progressed in governments, it just seems more and more dangerous. And I don't know. I worry about that more than anything.
Me too.
Because I have young children.
Yeah, I have a 3-year-old daughter. So how do you think I feel? I mean, I was that guy that said, I will never, ever homeschool my kid or a private school. I want them social. Now, you could put a gun to my head, and I am not putting my daughter in public school. No way in hell. Because I'll just be in jail for the rest of my life is what will end up happening, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just so crazy, and they get involved in, you know, even my generation. You know, you never locked your door. You came in when the street lights were on. Such a like if with us, my friend Franco, his mom had a car phone, like a big car phone, and that was the coolest thing in the world. And then now you have all this stuff. Do you think maybe they found something in the ocean, or they found something like that they were able to advance? Like, because how do you go from a car phone to what we have now in 20 years? But yet prior to that, you know, horse and buggy to car. Like, how do you make that advancement that quick?
I don't know. That doesn't surprise me as much. I think we're much further advanced than what we know, you know, because Gordon told me about digital cameras back in the early 60s.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Told me about that. And, you know, I even went to Eastman Kodak in Buffalo, New York, and they told me, yes, there was a type of digital cameras there.
What else did Gordon? What else did Gordon tell you?
I don't want to get
He'll have
trouble,
to kill you, man.
He's going to hit you with another earthquake.
He told me things that if I told you, I would sound crazy.
Oh,
and this is stuff that happened in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, well,
and the early 80s.
If we had dinner, you would think I have a tin hat on. the things I think too that I've heard from legitimate people like Gordon, you know.
Yeah, Yeah, and I take Gordon at his word, because there's never a day that I ever spent with Gordon that he ever lied or exaggerated on any of the other things that we did in our working and friend relationship. So I have no reason to disbelieve anything he said. He was just an honorable man, and I think he wanted to tell the truth. And there's a lot of people that even filmed on that were on part of the show, the engineers that I worked with in season 1. There was things that they couldn't say. They came up to me when we were doing a press release and go, Darrell, look, I know you want to ask me these questions, but I signed an NDA. I cannot say it. And I go, it's been more than 50 years. He goes, I'm not going to say it. And I said, no worries. I will never pressure you to say anything you don't feel comfortable saying. But one of those engineers, before he died, told me the truth.
Wow. You got one more cool thing with Gordon you can leak? One more cool thing? The digital camera. That's pretty cool, yeah. That's a jaw dropper, right? Like, I just had to pick my jaw back up and put it on my mouth.
There may have been 2 space programs, one for the public and one for the government, that running at the same time.
I got you.
I believe that.
I got you. Understood.
Yeah.
So
and that's all I can say about that.
I completely understand, and I appreciate you even sharing that with that much. I think the treasure hunting is cool. I call it treasure hunting. That's what I always heard when I was a kid. I'd be like, look, that'd be cool, man. So like, I try to bring, I like it. I think it's interesting. So, can you tell everybody about the 1733 fleet and the 1715? Because and I know in schools and whatever, they're not even teaching wood class anymore. Wood shop's gone. Everything's gone. And, whether you're 30, 40, 20, 50, they're not teaching this kind of stuff in school. And I just think it's really interesting if you could elaborate on those 2 things.
Well, 1715 fleet were 11 ships who left Havana, and they were on their way back to Spain. They ran into a hurricane on July 30 or 31st, and ran against a reef. 6 ships met their demise there. 4 managed to limp their way up further north up the coast, which have never been found. A lot of people are still trying to figure out where the other 4 went. 1 made it back and told the story, and I believe that's kind of what I was referring to them. I believe whoever recanted the story of the loss of the 1715, the rest of the 1715 fleet was killed after telling the story. Wow. Then there was the 1733 fleet that you can't dive on anymore. It was actually my very first shipwreck I ever dove on, when it was legal to dive on it. By a gentleman named Stefan Sikora, trained me how to be a diver. Because my dad, believe it or not, my dad was a treasure hunter for almost all his entire later adult life, but he never dove.
Really?
Wow. Deathly afraid of water, and that's why he brought me in. He hated water.
Wow.
There's a couple famous treasure hunters out there today. I won't bring up their names because I don't want to humiliate them or make them embarrassed. There's a couple of them, very well-known treasure hunters, who don't dive, but they call themselves treasure hunters, and everybody thinks they're divers, but they're not. And so my dad was one of those. Never went in the water except for one time snorkeling, and I saw him shaking so bad, and we were actually diving the 1733 fleet at that time. And that's when it dawned on me that my dad was afraid of water. And I knew, because I could tell. I'd been a surfer all my life. I could tell people who were afraid to go out and catch a wave, and then the wave could knock them over, and they'd look deathly afraid. My dad had that look of death on his face. And I said, Dad, go ahead, get back up. I'll get it. I'll dive down. I'd
give you a handshake on the surfing. I used to go out to LA a lot to watch Kobe Bryant and the Lakers, and I go to Newport Beach. And boy, some of those waves, Darrell, sir, I don't know how big of waves you rode, but I don't know. You got to have big kahunas to do some of that.
Yeah, no, when I was young, I rode big waves. I wasn't a big wave rider like, Waimea Bay or any of those 30, 40-foot waves. I didn't have the guts to do that. 20-foot waves, yeah, I would go those. And I grew up in Laguna Beach, California, and I surfed Newport a lot.
Yeah.
So And then Mexico, I surfed Mexico a lot, and I caught a lot of big waves. But yeah, I love surfing. Surfing was a big deal in my life for a long time.
And then also the Atocha. Not many people know about the Atocha.
Atocha.
Atocha. I'm saying it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, that was Mel Fisher had an idea in his head, and he figured out through working with Eugene Lyons and a few other people, Stefan Sikora, the guy who trained me, and he had a lead that he knew where it was, and went out there. My dad partnered with Mel, and they were partners. Mel was originally from Long Beach, California. We're from Laguna Beach, California, so we were pretty close vicinity-wise. And then my dad and him became friends. They went to Florida together, and they worked the 1715 Fleet area there when Mel owned the lease out there. And then Mel had invited my dad to work the Atocha. And they were two like personalities, two type A personalities. They kept butting heads.
Oh,
and they just couldn't get along. So my dad went and got his own lease out there. Oh my God, Mel just about.
I was going to say, how'd that go over?
It didn't go well, and there's a lot of stories about that because the Fisher family is still around today, but a lot of bad shit happened that the public does not know about that happened to us. My dad was not a good person. Mel, in a lot of ways, was not the greatest person because his family's still around, and I'm friends with Kim and a couple of their family members. But there was a lot of bad blood between them and my dad, and they would have done anything to get rid of each other. And thank God my dad ended up leaving, because I don't know that we would have been able to survive if we had not decided to leave.
One of those things.
One of those things, because back then, people could disappear very easily. There wasn't cell phones. You couldn't take pictures. You
Cameras
didn't have a GPS.
everywhere,
Yeah.
Well,
And so it was a pretty bad situation. And even if I thought that the Mel and his group may have done some wrong to us at the time, I think my dad, I have to be fair, my dad was not a good person. He may have done some wrong things to Mel and his people too, and that's why they didn't get along. And thank God I survived that one.
Oh, yeah.
Because
absolutely.
it's funny, because I told, there's a gentleman named Jim Sinclair. He's an archaeologist who worked with Mel Fisher. He's also the same archaeologist that was on my TV show.
Mm-hmm.
When I told him about that story, he goes, "Oh, that's right. I remember you guys. Your dad was such an asshole, tried to steal that stuff from Mel." I go, no, my dad had his own lease because he was on the other boat.
Right.
We were in two separate boats. It was like, game of chicken.
Yeah.
In the ocean. And I can tell you, Mel was a lot more ready for that type of game than we were. And thank God my dad decided to take off and hit the road, but it was funny because Jim Sinclair was on that boat the day that I was probably my scariest day, the confrontation between Mel's people and my dad's people. Ooh. That, could have turned really, really ugly. And thank God I'm here to tell the story. It didn't go ugly like I thought it was going to, and I'm here to tell the story.
It sounds like it was one of those situations where one of the two were going to go if they both stayed in it.
It would have been bad had we both decided to stay.
Right.
And I was way too young. I was only 17, and I go, "Dad,
it is time to go.
Let's get the fuck out of here.
Well,
these guys mean business, and I want to go home."
Yeah. I'm not 21 yet. I want to legally buy a beer first, right?
Yeah.
Then go back.
Drink at 19, but I wasn't even 19.
You weren't even 19. Yeah. Wait till we all get whacked out. So let me have a drink first, right? It
was scary. That was one of the scariest situations I'd ever been in, because both sides meant business. My dad meant business, and so did Mel. And luckily, my dad wasn't as well prepared as Mel was. So.
And like you said, you got two alphas, so there's not going to be any reasoning.
Yeah, and it's funny because they used to both be such close friends before that all started, and it went sideways. So,
but when you have a shipwreck like that, right? Because you're talking about, I'm thinking about it. So let's just say you have knowledge of some crazy shipwreck with amazing treasures that are going to be on it. Do you, you go out there, do you say anything to anybody right off the bat? How does that work? Like I know where it's at. I know where it's located. I don't want to spread the word too much right away, right? Because I don't want all these other people coming. And then once you get there, then do you file this like this is mine, not yours? And how do you protect that? And how does that work?
This episode is brought to you by Fiji. More than just water.
This is not just rock. It's ancient volcanic rock that filters tropical rain, giving it double the electrolytes and its signature soft, smooth taste. It's not just water. It's Fiji water.
It's like, again, if you're going to be working a shipwreck and you make a claim, you don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
You only tell the people, and if you're having to apply for a lease in a particular country or state, Florida, so let's say, you only tell the people that you're applying for. You're not going to go out and tell everybody what you got unless you're trying to raise money, which a lot of treasure hunters do, which is one thing that I'm totally dead set against, is raising money, investor money, because I've gone down that road and it never ends right. Never. You couldn't, even if you did everything in your power and you were doing it right and it just didn't go as planned, the investor's going to get mad and you're going to get sued, and even though they're not legally liable, or you're not legally liable because of your contractual agreement. However, people just get mad, and most treasure hunters are spending a lot more time in court from, pissing investors off, so there's a lot more to it than just applying for a lease and keeping it secret. You stay away from investment money if you can, and just do it yourself, even if you have to do it at a smaller pace and smaller level. If you can do it without borrowing money, because you'll ruin your friendships, your family, and you make a lot of enemies out of people that you just barely know, because it's a business that just very rarely turns out the way it should. Even if you find treasure, you may not get the division that you were hoping for from the country that you're working in, because they ended up turning their back on you. And in a lot of cases, that has happened to me and a lot of people I work with, where you're working in a country and you have a contractual arrangement with them and you've already raised money, you've got a signed contract, but they won't even honor their contract. And then how do you pay back your investors? Your investors your investors are going to blame you.
Right. They're going to say you're a liar.
They're never going to believe what really happened. They're always going to blame you. So I will never borrow money for a shipwreck expedition ever again in my life, because I know what can go wrong.
Good for you. If anybody's out there, listen to Darrell, because he knows.
Well, unfortunately, there are very few people out there like me who I don't know anybody who's not raising money for their expeditions. I really don't. Maybe one guy who's like me.
Good for you.
Keep it small, because it's just that's the worst thing, is dealing with the people that you bring on board, because nobody's ever happy.
Yeah.
So it's a tough business. It is a business so hard. First off, no treasure hunters like each other. That's the worst part about it. It's not like there's a brotherhood out there. There's small groups that love each other, but for the most part, they don't like each other. Second, you've got a big academic organization and people like UNESCO and those types of organizations that hate us. Then trying to acquire a license and a permit has now become next to impossible, or you have to pay a huge amount of money up front in order to get that permit. It's just not a business I would recommend anybody get into if you're planning on getting into it now, unless you just want to go out and have fun and dive. It's tough. It's a tough business. This really is not a get rich quick type of business. You either just have to be passionate and love what you're doing, and hopefully you're not spending every last dollar on it, because getting rich in this business is far and few between.
Yeah, that's why I said, because, maybe somebody's watching this that they're just intrigued by it and they want to do it. So I just wanted to stress, don't borrow money. Like, Darrell, this different guy. If you're doing it, like you said, play around, fun, treasure hunt, but do it with your own money. Don't do a GoFundMe. because that I don't know many GoFundMes that turn out very well. But, especially with that, because like you said, when it gets broken down, what do you say to the investors? You know what I mean?
That's right. And it's a business that, look, if you don't enjoy it, then don't do it. Because people always ask me, how can I become one? I go, don't. Just go out on the weekends, go diving, go look at stuff.
Have fun with it.
And have fun with it. But if you're planning on making a career out of it, there is none, because it's truly, you either have to be worth $1 billion where it doesn't matter that you're upside down and you're in it for the fun, or you end up borrowing money from people and then you're in debt for the rest of your life and in and out of court and people hate you or you get screwed over by the governments or states or whatever it is. It's a really hard business. It's not like it was back in the old days. It's totally different today.
When did you notice that shift where, the permits were harder now, everything was more expensive, everything was more of a pain in the ass? When did you really see that
Probably
shift?
in 1999.
Oh, that far back. That's when it started to get shitty.
That's far back for you, young man.
Yeah.
Seems like yesterday to me.
Yeah. Well, you look my age, so I mean, shit, sorry. Sorry, you look 25 years younger.
No, but it was about 1999 I started seeing the change. And then I started realizing, this is a change for the worse. And this is getting worse and worse every day. So like I said, unless you're already grandfathered in, permit wise, it's going to be really difficult. Because I like to tell people straight what it's really like. And it's not easy to do. It's not like, oh man, go out there. If you love it, give it your all. No, here's what you're up against. It's a freaking hill like this, and you got to push that cart. And every time you push it a foot higher, it gets heavier. Somebody throws in another rock.
Right.
I said, you'll never make it to the top. It's just almost impossible. And then they go, well, I'll give you money if I can dive with you. No. No. I'll invite you if I want to. You can come and have fun, but I'm not taking anybody's money anymore. My dad did that, and he lost his whole life because of that.
It sounds like a much less of a shot of becoming successful in what you're doing than any professional sport. And that's like one in a gazillion.
Yeah, no, it really is.
When you put it into perspective.
Making it to pro baseball player than you do becoming a professional, successful treasure hunter. Because there's a lot of professional treasure hunters out there, and I can tell you how 99% of them are broke, are not making money from treasure hunting.
Right, right.
Now I think everybody probably listening or watching this podcast has seen the movie The Titanic. And, at the end of the Titanic, the lady throws the gem of a crazy diamond in the water. Is there a treasure out there that is like the one everybody's searching for, the cream of the crop? Like, where is it? And, man, to get that treasure.
Well, everybody thinks there's the Queen's jewels in the 1715 fleet. A lot of people think that is never been recovered, and so the treasure hunters are out there trying to find that mother lode that nobody's ever found in the last 60 years, because people have been looking for it for 60 years.
Damn.
And then there's a gentleman named Carl Allen who's looking for this Maravillas shipwreck, and there's a lot of treasure on that, and he's found a lot of good stuff, but I can guarantee you he's probably spent more money than he's found in treasure, even though he's not hurting financially himself. However, there are those special treasures out there that are out there still. But again, you're up against even if you're up against actually finding those, but you're up against everything else that I just mentioned, going broke, or academic institutions, or UNESCO, NOAA, all these other institutions that don't want you out there. So I know it sounds horrible, and it's probably not what everybody wants to hear, but at least I'm trying to tell it like it is.
Well, yeah, no, and And I respect that, and you're doing a great thing, because before somebody goes and dumps their whole life in something that they have a 0.001% and how hard it's getting, and you just said maybe 3 years, 5 years, maybe, you know?
Yeah, I had a friend and his wife knew where a shipwreck was, and they tried to get it from the state of Florida. I think that they spent over $150,000 in the application process and got the runaround, and ended up losing it, just giving up.
Ugh.
Just because, and they weren't poor. They had the money they could afford to lose 150, but even them, it was like so frustrating for them to, not only was it frustrating to lose 150 grand, but to go through the red tape, because every time you think you're through the last door, there's like 5 more at the end of that hallway. And it's like, they're making it impossible for anybody to get leases, especially in the state of Florida.
I told you it's a racket. I told you, Darrell, I told you it's a racket down here. Don't let it fool you. It's a racket in this place.
It's impossible to get a lease out in the state of Florida. That's why I don't work there anymore as far as treasure hunting permits go, because I don't have the time or patience or even the money I want to spend in it. It would be 10 years before I even somebody who's maybe known like me,
established,
you think that I have a way to get the inroads to somewhere. No, it's just as hard. They just make it hard on me too. It's very difficult, even if like you offered, because the group that I offered was out of the state of Florida and offered to go work hand in hand with them, and they said no. So even if you offer it to them for free, they'll still say no, because you're a treasure hunter. And they will not be associated with treasure hunters, no matter how honest and forthright you could be. Yeah. That's just the way they are.
So, but I question, like, so I know what you're telling me, like the permit process and all the other red tape and all the other shit, but so they'd rather just leave it out there, or they want to get it for themselves?
They'd rather. UNESCO believes in what they call in situ preservation. In situ, where it is, where it lays, preservation. But they know it's BS, because salt water degrades everything. Name one thing that can survive being dunked in salt water for 400 years.
Yeah. Nothing that I know of. Yeah.
It's called in situ degradation. That's what I call it. They call it in situ preservation. They know they're just feeding you a bunch of
bullshit. Yeah.
They just want to use these fancy words, this highbrow attitude to keep the public. They make us look like the bad guys, and they're very good at it. They have all the money to throw at it and advertise us as the thieves of the world.
Yeah. And you're disrupting the environment and everything else.
That's right. We're ruining the environment, killing reefs and the natural fauna and fish out there.
Darrell, meanwhile, Florida's dumping in buckets of trash in the fucking ocean and bottles of plastic and batteries and everything else. But now you're gonna destroy the environment.
Just think what it does for the U.S. government. Okay, and look, I get why the U.S. government has to do it, and all governments. But when they're testing bombs and stuff, how many times have you imagine during World War II, they were testing the atomic bomb. Yeah. What did that do to the environment?
Right. Did you ever
just
see that?
The test run?
Right. I know you've seen the video. They set it off. Those guys, they don't even know it's going to go off. And they're like, okay, set it off. We're not quite sure what's going to happen to you guys. Just when it goes off, run. Remember it goes off and you see them all running and shit?
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You get all these environmental.
How about the nukes out of the water? What about all those all the animal life and how one eats another and how they survive and the coral? Like what?
It's ridiculous. If you're doing even and granted, I'm not putting down the people that do this, because Gordon was one of them. But you do air shows. Everybody's talking about the environment and all that. Just those air shows where the jets are flying the Blue Angels, let's call them. And I'm not picking on Blue Angels. Love the Blue Angels. But even something like that, what carbon footprint are they leaving during that air show?
I don't know. There's quite a bit of a black trail for a while after one. It's not white all the time. Yeah.
And imagine military exercise.
Oh, Jesus.
What they're doing. And it's just laughable because at one end they're saying that you can't drive a gas-powered car, but
Yeah.
one flight in a F-18 is probably that hour-long flight. It probably put more of a carbon footprint on the planet than my Toyota Corona did in the 60s.
Right.
For the lifetime it lasted, my first car.
And the best is this genius idea in California that all electric by 2035 when there's not even enough to make that many batteries. And what do you do with the battery when it dies? Yeah. What do you do?
Well,
it destroys.
Not only,
and how about the cobalt? The cobalt thing too.
But it's weird how the people that push that out there, they'll take anything that they know is bad, burning tires or dumping plastics. They ship it off to somewhere else and say, you see, California or our state is not doing anything wrong. That's because you shipped it over there to have them do it.
Yeah.
And then, it's like you get somebody else to do the dirty work, and then you can always blame them for doing it wrong. But if you did it yourself, it actually would be cleaner than if you had to do it, sending it out to a third party to do it.
Darrell, we had this guy in do you remember the percentage? There's a huge percentage of our trash that we sell to China, right? And now, do you think China cares about it? What do you think China does? Do you think that they properly take care of it? Hell no. No. They dump it right in the ocean.
Yeah. I mean, we all know the dirty secrets. That's just how it works. You got to, on the face, we look like we're doing everything by the book. But what they don't know is the dirty deals that are going behind. Look, get rid of the freaking trash. Let somebody else handle it. Mm-hmm. Let them take the blame. And it's just the way politics is. Politics is dirty all over the world. It's not just our country. It's everywhere. And it's been like that since medieval times, going way back. It's no different. Like I said, man hasn't changed.
Yep. Pull up Darrell's Instagram. I don't mean to ask you this again, but why won't they put funding into this? I know it's expensive, but so is all this other dumb shit that they're doing that's pointless. Why don't they put funding into ocean exploration, like what you're doing? Like, why not work with you? You know what I mean?
I don't know. Again, maybe they've got secrets they want to keep. I don't know. And, really at this point, I've given up on trying to figure them out because it's too hard.
Yeah. At some point,
it's too hard. They don't want to work with you, and you're wasting your time and energy trying to work with them. And this is why I was saying, if you want to be a treasure hunter, I feel bad for people who want to be a treasure hunter. That's me doing the other show that I'm filming, playing around there with a camera.
Click on that one. You can get volume. I won't do it.
Maybe okay. Sometimes the volume.
Sometimes not. Won't do it on this one.
Get here a little bit.
Okay. So where are you at there, Darrell?
I can't say. That's why I'm so sorry. I can't tell you because if I do, I'll get in trouble. I will get in trouble.
Oh, I got you. Forget it.
I literally would get in trouble.
You're right. I forgot. You're working on it right now. I apologize. I even asked you that. I don't do things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just can't. No, they would kill me.
Completely understand, and again, I apologize.
And is this the best way for people who want to follow along to follow you through Instagram?
Right now, look, I'm older, and I don't do social media as well as I should. My daughters keep saying, "Dad, you could do so much better." Yeah. You did it, but follow me on Instagram, and then there's a Cooper's Treasure a Facebook fan page that's. Okay. A lot of stuff's on there.
What's this picture right here when I click on it?
That is me in an undisclosed location in Europe where I found a gold coin.
A gold coin?
He found it, yeah. Go back up to the top to the link tree because it has all the links. And I highly recommend anybody watching this go to your Instagram because there's some cool reels on there. Whew.
This takes us back to his...
I thought that was the LinkedIn.
No.
What's the Facebook site?
It's called Cooper's Treasure Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a Facebook page for Cooper's Treasure. Just Google, go to search engine in Facebook and look up Cooper's Treasure group page. What do they call it? Facebook group page.
Group page.
Cooper's Treasure.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, we'll have all that at the top of the description. So out of all the places you've been, what's your favorite place to go where it's not a complete nightmare?
I love where I'm at right now. You know,
Yeah.
I love Europe. I love Europe. I love you know, I don't have a favorite. I love the Caribbean. There's so many places in the Caribbean as far as diving goes that are just mind-blowing. Either for treasure or just for recreational diving. But I love traveling the world. That's what I want to do, is I want to see all facets of culture and people and food and music and things like that. And that's why I travel a lot.
What's your favorite food?
Probably Mexican food.
Mexican,
believe it or not. My wife is Mexican. Mexico City probably has one of the most fantastic culinary display of unimaginable delicious food, and that and Vietnamese food, believe it or not. I lived in Vietnam for a while. The Vietnamese food is amazing, but you got to go to Vietnam.
Yeah. I'm
happy.
happy.
You got to really go there.
I'm happy in Puerto Vallarta and take a cab into the city. And I will say, Mexico, at first you're kind of like, whoa, but the food is fresh. Yeah. I mean, they kill the damn chicken right there. Like, you go to the bathroom and the chicken's right there, and that's what you're about to eat. But it's fresh as fresh gets.
Oh, yeah. And there's so many really fantastic different flavors, fusions of food in Mexico. Beyond your imagination. But you have to be a foodie. There are a lot of people, my friends, who are happy with hamburgers and hot dogs and, you know, bar food, but who don't really care about that. But you got to really love food. And if you really love food, Mexico and Vietnam are probably my favorites.
And how about if you go for a walk in Mexico, like the stone sidewalks? It's so awesome at nighttime. They're going to walk. Everybody's nice. They got little stands on everything. It's just really cool, like a little friendly culture. It's really cool.
Yeah, very, very amazing culture. Very friendly people, you know. Again, the only thing that ruins anything is probably governments. You know?
Yeah, constantly.
Because Americans are fantastic people. Our government ruins a lot of things. Governments in every country seem to take away all the cool things that countries really have going for them, because the Mexican culture is fantastic. American culture in a lot of different places is fantastic. European culture, Egyptian culture, Asian culture. It's just the governments that ruin everything. And, you know, I hate to sound like the government.
But it's true, though. They ruin it. They ruin everything, and then they put a divide in. So then Mexico doesn't like whoever or whatever because of the border. That's got nothing to do with anything. Mexico is an awesome place. There's bad places there like everywhere else. I've been there plenty of times, and I've never had any problems, you know.
Yeah.
And I went down the wrong road a few times too, by the way, Darrell.
Yeah, but you could go down the wrong road in New York or LA.
Same thing.
Know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember asking Gordon one time, and I got to get going, guys.
Sure.
Nighttime here. But I asked Gordon, I said, what was one of the favorite things about flying in space? And he goes, looking down at the Earth and not seeing any borders. And he goes, it was amazing how beautiful the Earth is without all the lines that they have on the maps.
Wow. Well, with that being said, Rob's got one more.
I just got one last.
That would have been a killer ending, Rob. What is it?
One last quick question. You've all the years of your explorations and amazing things that you've found. What's that one piece that was it? That was awesome. That was the coolest thing you've found over
to you personally.
My wife.
Oh, that's a good answer, buddy. That's a good fucking.
She's standing there, isn't she?
Now I know why you're married. Now I know why you're married so long. That's good. I'm putting that down in my notes.
No, I always say that, and it's true. But my favorite historical artifact that I found was a Mayan pendant that a high priestess must have worn, made of gold, and it sank on a 400-year-old shipwreck. So I found the shipwreck, looking for a shipwreck, found silver and gold coins on it, and then found that Mayan pendant still intact there, because normally the Spanish would have destroyed it or melted it down, but whoever was on that Spanish shipwreck, part of that crew, loved that piece and didn't destroy it. So that artifact was 1,200 years old. So it was an 800-year-old antique at the time that boat sank 400 years ago. So that was pretty damn cool.
Darrell, now, like when you hold that or look at that, I can't imagine what goes through your mind. You have to look at that and wonder, like, who wore this? What was going on? Like, that's just got to be such a mind screw, kind of, after a while.
It is. I always wanted to wear it, but I just couldn't do it.
I understand because
couldn't do it because I just felt like it was stolen property.
Because of what you do, right? There's an emotion to it, and you don't know who it was, what it meant. So I would assume, being someone like you that is very professional with this, you don't know, so you don't want to disrespect the piece.
Because I'm sure, I can almost guarantee that whoever that belonged to did not give it up because they wanted to give it to whoever sank on that ship.
Right, and that's respectable. Darrell, you're a hell of a guy, man. Yeah. Please, you got to come back on so you can tell me whatever the hell it is you're working on in, with the Secret Service or something.
Yep. No, I don't work with the Secret Service, but
I know.
Yeah, no, I will. I'll definitely make an announcement if people follow me on my Instagram and the Cooper's Treasure group Facebook page. Follow us there. I'll be doing more social media as time goes on and progresses and the new show comes out, and I'll keep everybody posted, but it's going to be pretty damn cool. It has nothing to do with what we have been talking about tonight in any aspect.
Rob, you better get in his ass as soon as he wakes up tomorrow, get him scheduled again.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
All right, Darrell, you stay safe. Keep doing what you're doing. I respect you so much and what you're doing. Thank you for your time, and congratulations on a great family and kids and everything else.
All right. Thanks, guys.
It was an honor to speak with you, sir.
All right. You take care, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Growing up, cereal was one of the best parts of being a kid, but as I got older, started working out, I had to watch out for sugar and empty carbs. Magic Spoon has the amazing flavors you'll love, but high protein and less sugar. The variety pack, 4 flavors, cocoa, fruity, frosted, and peanut butter. This pack has 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and 4 to 5 net grams of carbs. Only 140 calories per serving. It's high protein, 0 grams of sugar, keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, and soy-free. The fruity one, I'm done for. I can eat the whole box, no problem. Go to magicspoon.com/MSCS to grab a variety pack and try it today. And be sure to use promo code MSCS at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. That says something. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of high-protein cereal at magicspoon.com/MSCS and use the code MSCS to save $5 off. Thank you, Magic Spoon, for sponsoring this episode. This podcast is brought to you by Monster Energy. Tear into a can of the meanest energy drink on the planet, Monster Energy. It's the ideal combo of the right ingredients in the right proportion to deliver a big bad buzz that only Monster can. Monster packs a powerful punch, has a smooth, easy drinking flavor. Athletes, musicians, co-eds, road warriors, metalheads, geeks, hipsters, and bikers dig it. You will too. Monster Energy is more than just the green OG. Monster has Monster Ultra, Juice Monster, Monster Hydro, Rehab Monster, Dragon Tea, Monster Max, Muscle Monster, and many more. Buy on Amazon, buy on Walmart, or go to monsterenergy.com and believe me, you'll find a place. Unleash the beast. Monster Energy.
In medicine, we do have laws. We have various laws of acid-base balance that we can rely on. There are laws of thermodynamics. In cardiology, we rely on various principles of physics. For instance, we rely on the Doppler principle, is very important, which is the direction of blood flow and velocities.
I think your IQ might be 220.
Yeah, he's pretty smart.
But in medicine, medicine is one of the coolest, funnest professions. You know, most doctors have no hobbies. You know why? Because we don't need one. We have such an interesting field. If you ever go to these hospitals and go to Grand Rounds, which is our big, you know, weekly review of a particular case, there'll be doctors who are in their 90s coming in on walkers. It's like, why are you coming here? You're 90 years
They'll
old.
be dead if they don't.
No, well,
They got to keep going.
right? Partly they want to keep going, but partly because it's so interesting. HHS has spent $1 billion in long COVID. They found nothing. I'm not going to sit on my hands anymore and say, oh, I'm going to wait for the government to tell me what to do. People have blood clots. They're having cardiac arrests. They're having problems now. We're going to kick butt. Base spike detox. The reason why it's the base is you can add other things. People say, well, what about nattokinase? What about ivermectin? What about... Fine, add it to the base. But at the base, let's take care of the spike protein, and let's pray that the human body can get rid of this messenger RNA. We still haven't proven that yet. People who take these shots, we're not sure if we can get rid of it. 2/3 of the world's took a shot.
And then they're still pushing it.
Yeah,
Still pushing
like everything's okay.
Like everything's okay. And I ask people about it that have gotten like 5. Well, I trust my doctor. I have faith in my doctor. You know how many times I've heard that? Probably 1,000 times.
Do you know I've written the American College of Cardiology and some other cardiologists in my group. We wrote them. Say, listen, this is fatal now. We have clear autopsy-proven fatal myocarditis. Autopsy proven. I said, American College of Cardiology in the fall of 2022 has a statement saying, there's risks and benefits, but the benefits of the vaccines outweigh the risks. I told them, I said, listen, you better revisit that. You better change your guidance. I said, people are dying. The vaccines didn't make the illnesses go away. And my family came over from Ireland, 1870s. Do you know what took out the Irish early on? Strep throat. Do you know my great-grandmother died of Bright's disease, which is, she died at age 32 after 10 kids. Wow, 10 kids. She died of kidney failure due to post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis. My grandfather, my dad's dad, died of rheumatic heart disease. Again, strep throat. We don't have strep throat problems anymore. You know why? Because we have antibiotics. The good thing about Trump is when he says something different, he doesn't flip-flop. He doesn't. He goes, I would never mandate these. And think about a world where the vaccines were never mandated.
Optional. Yeah.
If they were never mandated, would we be in this predicament?
No, absolutely not.
No.
Very different.